everybody, DeathsStalker here. So, I'm out on my bike just after watching the British Grand Prix MotoGP race, and all I can say is, wow. Yeah, I thought the race a week or so ago in Austria between Dovey and Mark was pretty impressive. This one, mind-blowing last couple corners. Now it started off, Mark of course getting his 60th pole, which now makes him the #1 rider in history with poles in the Premier class, which would be the 500 Grand Prix / MotoGP class. And he did it with the help of Valentino Rossi, believe it or not. Valentino had messed up his first qualifying lap. He ran off the track, so it didn't count. And he went out in his next lap, and of course these guys don't want to help each other, so they sort of like, well, let the other guy pass and I'll follow him. But it was really funny. Mark and Valentino were like going fast, going slow, going fast, and then finally Valentino realized he had to go, because if not he would be starting 12th. So he put his head down and laid an absolutely magnificent lap. And Mark following him, there is a slight advantage to that most times, but sometimes that can just totally mess you up. But Mark actually, because he was following Valentino, he was nearly half a second quicker on that lap, because it's just a slight advantage you get by following people if you do it right. Valentino was absolutely thrilled. He you know, he was second on the pole, front row start. Davi wasn't having a good starting. I believe he ended up starting from the third row. So fast forward to Sunday in the race, and the temperatures were hot. It's the hottest it's been all weekend, so the testing they'd done for tires was sort of like not certain if it's going to the tire picks we had are going to work like we thought they did. And Mark actually said, and was being interviewed on the line before they started, was that he was saying that it doesn't look good for the tires. He said, like, after the last 5 laps, the tires apparently drop off very severely, which means he would be sliding around, losing traction. And pretty much everybody who picked the same tires were up doing well. Anybody who picked the medium tire finished very poorly. Now, it all started in the first lap, the very first corner. Fabio Quattrolora, getting better at it, got on the gas a little too much in the first turn. The bike slipped a little sideways, and then it high-sided and spit him off. Now, of course, as soon as that happened, his bike went careening across the track, and Andrea Dovizioso, who had a really good start on his Ducati, was catching the lead group, and all of a sudden he had this Petronas Yamaha right in front of him, and there was literally nothing you can do. And he hit the bike. The Ducati then jumped like a motocross bike, and Andrea got pitched off it. The bike hit the ground, immediately caught fire, because I'm pretty certain it probably blew the gas tank or severed some lines, and it careened out the track. And Andrea hit the ground really hard on his right hip. Imagine being dropped about 5 feet from in the air, traveling at probably, I'm going to say 70-80 miles an hour, and then just dropping straight down on your hip. Like, even with padding and stuff, that's going to hurt. And then he did a whole bunch of rolls, flips, tosses, and turns and whatnot. And probably for the first lap, I was wondering if they were going to red flag the race, because you could tell he was hurt. Fabio was hurt too. He got up and eventually was able to limp off. And after the race, you saw him in his box, and he was, you know, you can tell he was upset, but he was limping a bit. So it's a good thing they got 2 weeks before the next race. Andrea went to the medical center, and at the end of the races, he was still there. And eventually, he ended up getting sent to the hospital, because apparently he hit his head pretty hard, and he had memory loss, which Anybody who's raced or played sports, you know that's a concussion. So he took a pretty bad hit. I'm pretty certain the race, the crash or whatnot, it'll be on TV, and you've probably all seen it by now. It was pretty bad. Again, not really anybody's fault, racing accident. It's, you know, it's too bad for both riders. They both were probably in contention to fight for the lead, fight for the podium at least. So that left Rossi and Marquez sort of like checking out, and very quickly Alex Rins on the Suzuki started reeling him in, and within a couple laps he actually passed Valentino. Valentino looked like he was a little bit off on his setup for the race day, and the end result was that he was just not as competitive. Valentino eventually faded back until he ended up, I think, finishing 4th or 5th. I'll put it up here for whatever it is. And Alex proceeded to follow Mark. Now Mark was riding pretty much as hard as he could, but Mark was, you know, he's looking at the big picture. He wants the championship. And Alex was like chasing him down, and it was amazing how much more cornering speed the Suzuki has over the Honda. Like, parts of the track it was day and night, but of course as soon as they got any corner where they could open the throttle on that Honda RC213, it just left the Suzuki in the dust. And Suzuki has actually done some work on their bike, and they actually have more horsepower this year, but it's still nowhere near what the Honda and of course the Ducati have. So you know, 2 laps from the end, Alex put a move on Mark, and Mark fought back, and when it went into the final lap, Alex was right all over Mark, and Mark was doing everything he could possibly do to stay in the front. And I was watching him, and he was dirt tracking that bike sideways through the corners. Like, it was impressive, the fact that he was going around the corners and just drifting the bike like a dirt track bike sideways through the corner so Alex couldn't pass him. And what happened is, on the last turn, Alex took a different line, a wider line to Mark, and Mark turned in, and I guess Mark, the front complained a bit too much, and he lost a little bit of grip, so he had to close the throttle for just a hair, and that's all it needed. And Alex actually passed him, and it is now tied for the 4th closest finish in motorcycle racing history. And they actually listed what the races were, and it was impressive. And this was the first race that Alex Rins won, MotoGP race he won, where it was a heads-up fight for the win. He won earlier this year in Austin, but that was where Mark made that mistake and crashed out of the lead when he was like probably 3 or 4 seconds in front. And this one here, it was you know, straight up, he beat Mark. And it was a very, very good race. Like, I absolutely just totally enjoyed it. You know, this year the races, it's like you can't even stop, you know, to take a bathroom break while these races are on, because if you happen to look away for a second, you might have missed something. So anyways, that's what happened. It was an awesome race, and I am going back now to watch the Moto2 race, because I had to miss that because I had to go do some errands. So I hope you enjoyed that, and now we have 2 more weeks before the next MotoGP race, but after that it's back-to-back races. So anyways, Death Stalker signing off.